your part-time controller, dedicated to helping nonprofit organizations with all of their accounting needs. More information is available at yourparttimecontroller.com.
Using macros in Excel can greatly speed up our work by automating common tasks. Let's take an example. I have a simple statement of activities for the 3 months ending March 31st, and I'm going to label this column actual. Now, I find I am constantly doing the following. I'd like to be able to center, wrap, and underline the text. So I click on the cell, I click on the Home tab, I come over to Alignment, click on that little box in the lower right there, and make sure the Alignment tab is selected. And I'm going to select Wrap Text, Horizontal Alignment, let's center that. I'm going to click on the Font tab, come down to Underline, the drop down, and let's click Single Accounting. Click OK, and I have centered it, wrapped it, and underlined it. Now, of course, in this case, wrapping it didn't make any difference. It's only one word. But had there been multiple words, it would be wrap. So let's just show that actual for this month. All right, and we can see that it's all wrapped very nicely. But I don't really want to put actual for this month on a financial report, so let me take that back out. Just wanted to demonstrate to you all, in case you didn't believe me, that it was going to be wrapped. And now the next column, let's say that that is budget information. And oh, it's not formatted, so I could, if I wanted to, I could go in and now have to repeat these steps all over again. And I'm going to click Wrap, Center, and Single Accounting. All right, I know what you're thinking. All I had to do was come over to Actual, click on the Format Painter, and I could have done that. So let's do that here. So now I'm going to come over here and enter the word variance. And I will use the Format Painter. I will copy the format, and I will come over here and I will paste the format. So here's a simple series of steps that I find I use virtually every time I create a spreadsheet for almost any purpose. If my spreadsheet's got columns, and if my columns have column headings, I'm going to be centering them, wrapping them, and underlining them. Wouldn't it be nice to have a macro that would make that a little bit easier? So I'd like to create a macro to automate the steps of centering, underlining, and wrapping my column headings. So let's demonstrate this. So to start, let me get rid of what I already have here. I'm going to want a clean slate there, so I'm just going to delete that and add another row back into this. So it's just as if I am starting from scratch. To get started, I'm going to use the macro recorder to record the steps that I'm going to take. The easiest way to do that is to come all the way down to the lower left and click on this button right here. So it looks like a little spreadsheet. There's a little dot up in the right in the left upper corner there. If you don't see this, here's how you make it visible. Along this bottom section here that I'm moving my cursor over, do a right mouse click, and you'll find I have something called the macro recorder here. It happens to be checked. I'm going to uncheck that, and when I uncheck it, watch this little guy right here disappear. So I uncheck it, he's gone. So if you are looking at your screen and you don't see that, move your mouse over this bar, any place at all, do a right mouse click, find macro recorder, and check that. And there it is. All right, I'm going to start recording, so here we go. I'm going to press the record button. before we get started, the record macro window comes up. I have to give this macro a name. I'm going to call it center underline wrap. Now I wanted spaces between the words, but Excel doesn't like spaces between words in this particular window, so I'm using the underscore in order to create the illusion of spacing. All right, shortcut key I'm going to skip. Store macro. Use the drop down and pick the personal macro workbook. If you pick the personal macro workbook, any macros that you save there will be available to you in whatever spreadsheets you happen to be working in, as long as you're on that computer. If I had saved it into this workbook, then the macros will only be available in this workbook. Then later, tomorrow, if I come back and I open up a new workbook, then I will not see those macros. So almost always you're going to want to use the personal macro workbook. Description, you're welcome to add a description. And now I'm going to click OK. Once I clicked OK, notice in the lower left corner that the button has now changed to a square. This means the macro is recording. It's watching whatever you do. So watch out for extraneous keystrokes, because all of those extraneous keystrokes will be recorded by the macro recording. Now later I'm going to show you how to edit those extraneous keystrokes out, so don't worry if you have some extra keystrokes or if you make a mistake, because we're going to edit those out. Alright, so select the cell where you want to record. Now I happen to already have that cell selected, so I'm just going to click somewhere else, and you can pretend that you're somewhere else. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to select that cell. And it would be helpful if I already had something in here so I can make sure that it's working. I'm going to type the word actual back in, hit enter. The macro just recorded those steps, but I'll edit out that later. And now I'm going to go through the sequence of steps to center it, wrap it, and underline it. So home, alignment, open up the format cells screen, wrap, center, font, single underline, or single accounting, because I want that blank space before and after. Click OK. And that's it. I want to turn off the macro recorder. So I'm going to click this button. And now you see that it's changed. I know that the macro has stopped recording. So we've recorded a macro. And the next step is to go into the Visual Basic Editor and edit out the extraneous steps. Now that we've recorded a macro, the next step is to go in and edit it. In order to do that, we must get to the Visual Basic Editor. The Visual Basic Editor, or VBE for short. Now, like most things with Excel, there are multiple ways of doing things, so I'm going to show you two ways to get there. All right, the first way is click on the View tab. Give that a click. And off to the right, there is this button here that says Macros. I'm going to click on that. And up pops the macro window. And they only have one macro in here at the moment. The center underline wrap macro that we just recorded. I could click the edit button, and that will take us to the Visual Basic Editor. Now I have this set up to show you a possible error message you might get. I'm going to click edit, and up pops a screen that says cannot edit a macro on a hidden workbook. Unhide the workbook using the unhide command. All right, if you should get that, click OK. Click cancel. Come up to the view menu. Now we're already in the view menu, and there's a button right here that says unhide. I'm going to click that. And I've only got one hidden workbook, so I will click OK. And I am now actually in the personal macro workbook right now. I don't want to be in the personal macro workbook. Let's go back to our regular the workbook that we were in. And let's try it again. I'm going to click Macro, and here it is. I'm going to click Edit, and we come into the Visual Basic Editor screen. It's actually called Microsoft Visual Basic for Applications, but this is called the Visual Basic Editor. And I'm going to close that because I want to show you another way to get there. Before going further, let's hide the personal macro workbook. I want to make sure that we don't accidentally make any changes to it. So click on the workbook, make it your active workbook. So here it is, personal macro workbook, and come back to the view menu and click on hide. I'm going to click that. All right, I have now hidden the personal macro workbook, so it is no longer visible at the bottom of my screen here. The only spreadsheet that I have open is the one that we're working on. All right, I said that there's two ways that we can work with the Visual Basic Editor. The next one is to click on the Developer tab. Now, you might not have the Developer tab available to you. If you don't see the Developer menu as an option, here's how you find it. Come over to a blank space on any of your menus, doesn't matter which, could just be right over here, and do a right mouse click. After you do the right mouse click, find where it says Customize the Ribbon, give that a click, and on the main tabs, find the Developer tab, and now in my case there's a check mark there because I've already had it turned on. Let me uncheck it. Click OK. And notice that the Developer tab has now disappeared. So don't panic if that should happen to you. To get it back, I'm going to do a right mouse click. Actually, let's see if we can do it anywhere. In fact, you know what? We can do a right mouse click. Looks like just about almost anywhere, as long as we're not actually on one of the buttons. And click on Customize the Ribbon. Find the Developer tab, and notice now it's the only one here in my case that's unchecked. I'm going to check it and click OK. And the Developer tab is back. Clicking on the Developer tab, we're not going to go into what all of these things mean, but we're really looking for this button right here that says Visual Basic, and I'm going to click on that, and I am now in the Visual Basic Editor. All right, let's find the macro. Now, mine has already opened up to center, underline, and wrap. Yours might not have opened there. You might have come down to a situation like this, where you've got this big blank screen on the right, and you're wondering, uh-oh, where is everything? Well, find on the left where it says VBA Project and Personal. Now, if you can't see the whole word, you can make this pane wider. So I'm going to click on it with my mouse, hold down the mouse, drag it to the right. All right, you can make it as wide or as narrow as you like. And I see personal.xlsb. And there's a plus sign here. I'm going to click on the plus sign. And now I've exposed two folders. One folder that says Microsoft Excel Objects and one folder that says Modules. Well, it's going to be in my Modules. Now here it's already popped up because it's the only thing I've got going in there. Modules. I'm going to double click on the modules. All right, so if you didn't see this before, you should see it now. I've double clicked on the modules, and the only module that I have is my center, underline, and wrap module. All right, so there's a few things going on here, and I'll just give you a brief overview. This isn't intended to be a full description of everything in this window, but just to give you enough information to get started. You see that it's got sub is the first word. Just click my mouse over here. It says sub, and down at the very bottom it says end sub. This goes back to the earlier days of programming where these things were called subroutines. So from sub down to end sub, this tells Excel that my program starts with the word sub and ends with end sub. Everything in between is my program. All right, below that, we have a few lines that start with an apostrophe. Any line that starts with an apostrophe means to ignore what follows the apostrophe, or it's an explanation, or it's a remark statement. In the old days of programming, these were called rem statements. So it's a way that you can annotate your macros. So in this case, it says center, underline, and wrap. And I could add other things. I could say this macro was recorded by Eric Freint on such and such a date. And if I want, I can fill in the date, which I'll leave blank for purposes of this video. And you can have as many remark statements as you want. And let me clean that up. I'll just add a little space there. All right, get rid of that. We don't need that. And it's okay to have blank lines in your code. That does not cause any problems. All right, let's take a look at what's going on here. And our first line says range C6 select. Well, if you remember, back when we were recording, that the first thing I did was I clicked here. And that is cell C6. So the first thing I did was select it. Well, we don't want that to be part of the macro. What we want is for the user to select a cell later and run the macro. We don't want the macro to always take you to cell C6 because one of my column heading is not in cell C6. So I don't want that in there. I'm going to highlight it the way I have here, and I'm going to hit the delete key. So that's gone. Remember, the next thing that I did was I came over here and I typed in the word actual, and I said that later we're going to take that out. Well, here's where Excel recorded that. It said in the active cell, put in the word actual. Well, I don't want that. I'm going to take that out. And again, range C6 select. Don't want that in there because I want this to work on whatever the active cell is. Let's get rid of that. All right. We have a section here that starts with the word with and ends with the phrase end with. Okay, this is a particular construct in Visual Basic, and it says take everything between the with and the end with and do the following. So with my selection, do the following. So it is saying set the horizontal alignment to center. I like that. That's what I want. Vertical alignment, bottom. Well, maybe I want that, maybe I don't. But there's only three things I want this macro to do. Center, underline, and wrap. Everything else is extraneous, so I want to get rid of it. So vertical alignment, I'm going to hit the delete key. Wrap text is true. I want that. Now the next series of steps, orientation, indent, shrink, reading order, merge cells. Well, I don't want my macro to automatically do these things, so I'm going to delete that. So with the selection, all I'm going to do so far is center it and wrap it. All right, now we also underlined it. So here we have a new with and end with series of statements, and it has to do with the font, the selection dot font. Well, we've got a lot of extraneous stuff in here. Excel recorded the font that I was using, so I just happen to have Calibri, I happen to have regular, I happen to have this font size of 16, strike through, superscript, subscript, outline, shadow. Well, maybe I don't want these things in the future. Remember, I just want this to do three things: center, underline, and wrap. Now I don't want it to do anything else. I'm going to get rid of all those. I'm going to hit the delete key. And here is the step that I want. Underline. Underline style, single accounting. I do want that. But what about these next steps? The color, the tint, the font. I don't want any of those. I'm going to delete these. And I think I'm done. So with my selection, I've got my centering, my wrapping, my underline. I think that's good. I'm going to click Save. and I'm going to close this window. I'm going to close out of the Visual Basic Editor. Well, let's see if this really works. So I'm going to type in the word budget here. All right, and we can see that it's not formatted. So let's run the macro. To run the macro, we could go to the Developer tab and click on Macros, and that brings us to the macro window. I'm just going to cancel this out to show you another way to get there. We could go to View and click on the Macros button here. It's the same button and brings us to the same window. Okay, whichever way you get there, I am going to select it and I'm going to click Run. And here we go. Ready? I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, click. 1, 2, 3, click. And that's it. It ran already. And it has applied those 3 steps to budget. Budget is now formatted using our macro. All right, before continuing, a couple of quick tips. One is to get to your macros, to edit it. We had one way was to click on View, go to Macro, select the macro, and click Edit. You remember before, and now again, we're coming into this message saying that we have to unhide the macro workbook. Well, you really don't want to have to keep doing that. So a better way to do that is to use the Developer tab and click on the Visual Basic button, and that brings you directly into the Visual Basic Editor, so you don't have to unhide and then hide again the personal macro workbook. It's sort of a pain to have to keep doing that. So that's tip number 1. The other thing I just wanted to mention, perhaps not so much a tip, but when we were looking at the macro and I was commenting about these apostrophes, I don't actually think I used the word comment. So, I said that you can add a remark or you could add text, explanatory text to annotate, but it's also called commenting. So if you want to add comments to your macros, just start the line off with an apostrophe. Now there's just one more thing I'd like to show you in this video, and that's how to add a shortcut button to the ribbon to make it even easier to get to your macro. Right now, the problem is that if I want to run the macro on this cell, I have to click here, and then I bring up the macro window. So that's one click. I have to find my macro. Here I only have one, but theoretically I could have any number of macros listed here. I have to find the one I want, click on it, and then I'd have to click Run. So it's not that big a problem to do that. It would be nice if somewhere on the ribbon we had a shortcut for it. So I'm going to show you that next. Now the steps I'm going to show you about how to add a shortcut button to the ribbon only apply to Excel version 2010 or later. The ribbon was introduced with Excel 2007, but you cannot customize the ribbon in Excel 2007. So this will not work in Excel 2007. So all right, we want to add a new ribbon, and first thing you'll notice is I have something up here. I have a menu option called Eric, and in here I have a button called Center, Underline, and Wrap. Let's see what happens if we run this. So let's add a heading to another column and select that, and I'm going to click on that button, and voila, it has applied our single underline centered, and it has also applied the wrapping. Well, how did I get something that says Eric up top, and how did I get this group? How did I get this button that says center, underline, and wrap? Well, I'm going to show you that next. So I'm going to undo this, and first I'm going to turn off the recording momentarily, undo it, and then I'm going to come back. All right, with the magic of video editing, I have removed my menu that said Eric, and now I'm going to show you how to put that back. All right, do a right mouse click somewhere along the ribbon, but not on any of the buttons. So I usually come out to an area where there's nothing out there. I'll do a right mouse click, and I'm going to choose Customize the Ribbon. Now, on this right screen here, where it says Main Tabs, I've got all of the tabs going across the top. So you see it says Home, and if I look up at the top of the screen, there's my Home tab. If I look at Insert, you'll see that I have an Insert tab. Page Layout, I have a Page Layout tab, or I keep calling them tabs, but menu items. So I see Formulas, I have a Formulas menu, Data, and so on. So I want to now add one that says Eric, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to click on New Tab. All right, so calling it tab or menu is either one is fine. And here it is. It says New Tab. So if you didn't see that, go back and replay this last few seconds of this video so you can see that happening again. And I'm going to click OK. And lo and behold, there it is. It says New Tab. Now it happened to, in this case, inserted it right after Home. And let's do Customize the Ribbon again. And the reason for that was I had Home selected so that when I hit New Tab, that's where it put it. All right, well, I want to have it put it all the way at the end. So I'm going to select New Tab, and I've got these up and down arrows. I'm going to click the down arrows several times until I get down to the bottom. That's as far as I can go. It has this thing called background removal, but we're not going to talk about that. But right here I've got New Tab now down at the bottom. I'm going to click OK, and you can see it's moved. So now it's the last of my tabs across the top of the screen. All right, so now that it's there, I don't want it to say New Tab. I'd like it to say something descriptive. So I'm going to go back to Customize, select New Tab if it's not already selected, and I'm going to click Rename. And you know what, I'm going to call this Eric's Custom Macros. All right, you may call yours whatever you like. I'm going to click OK. And you can see it's changed it here to say Eric's Custom Macros. If I were to click OK, now it says that across the top. So Eric's Custom Macros are across the top, and it's got a group here. By the way, this group, that's referring to within each tab there's a series of groups. So on the Page Layout tab we have the Themes group, the Page Setup group, the Scale to Fit group, Sheet Options group, and the Arrange group. So we can also have groups like that. So let's come back in, customize the ribbon, and new group. Let me rename that group. I'm going to call this Automations. And click OK. And it's applied the name Automations here. If I were to click OK here, we can see that it now says Automations in that group. But so far, though, there's nothing here. The group is empty. So I've succeeded in adding a tab. I've succeeded in adding a group. But now we have to have something that links us back to the actual macro itself. So you've guessed it. Right mouse click, customize the ribbon. And I'm going to select Automations. And now I have to add my macro. So let's do that. I come over now to the left. I'm going to click the drop down under Popular Commands. One of the choices is Macros. I'll select Macros. And I only have one macro. Only one is showing. So I'm going to select the macro. I'm going to click Add. And now we see that my macro is showing up right below where it says Automations. I can scroll to the right if I want to read the whole thing. Click OK. And we've done it. Let's make sure that it works. So we'll just pick something down here. I'm going to say center and wrap this text. So select that cell. I'm going to come over to my macro, and when I run my cursor over it, it becomes highlighted. I'm going to click that, and when I click, watch what happens here. So I'm going to click up here, watch what happens here. I'm going to count to 3, and then I'm going to click it so you can be watching here. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, click. And just like that, it has now applied our macro to center, wrap, and align this text. All right, well, just one last thing. This name is a little clunky. And I don't want it to say personal.xlsb exclamation point. I'd like to, change that a little bit. And I don't like this icon. I suppose I want to change that icon. So right mouse click, customize the ribbon. We're going to click on this plus sign right here under automations, highlight the macro, and I'm going to click rename. So I just want to get rid of that personal.xlsb. I just want it to say center, underline, and wrap, and I'm going to pick a new picture, a new icon to go along with it. These are the ones you can select from. There's probably some way in Excel that you can add more icons to this if you're not happy with these, but let's pick something that is somehow indicative of what it is we're trying to do. I don't know what that might be. I'll just select this little kaleidoscope thing here. Click OK, click OK, and my name has changed, and I've got that little starburst or snowflake, whatever that thing might be. All right, and now we have added a custom button to our tab, and you can just imagine now as we begin to add additional macros going forward, we'll be able to add them to this group, or we can actually, if we had many macros and we wanted to further group the macros by type, we can add additional groups by type. To sum up, what we've learned so far, what we have learned in this exercise is how to automate a repetitive task in order to save some time. It does take some time up front in order to go through all these steps, but it'll be well worthwhile, and you'll find that as you start to do these, they'll be quicker. So we learned how to record macros using this button down here. We learned how to edit the macros by clicking View and clicking Macro here, or making sure the Developer tab is visible, and then we can go straight to the Visual Basic Editor. We looked in the Visual Basic Editor and we went through the process of editing one of our macros. After our macro was edited, we went back into Excel and we showed how it works. And then we added a tab and a custom group and a button to our macro. That concludes this video.